Hello, everyone. Let's dive into today's lecture around descriptive, predictive, and prescriptive analytics. These are the three levels of business analytics with AI. So today we're going to dive into what I consider one of the most transformed topics in modern business, the three levels of analytics, which is descriptive, predictive, and prescriptive. These aren't just buzzwords, they represent a fundamental shift in how you and I will do business and how businesses make decisions. Let's give you a little bit of context. In 2025, 65% of organizations have either adopted or are actively investigating AI technologies specifically for data and analytics. That's nearly two-thirds of all companies. All the global big data and analytics markets is projected to grow from 348 billion in 2024 to over 924 billion in 2032. We're talking about a market that's almost tripling in less than a decade. So here's what really catches my attention. Banks that implement advanced analytics benchmarked in 27 witnessed their corporate and commercial revenues raised by more than 20% over the last 3 years. Think about that. A 20% revenue increase driven potentially by better analytics. This is not theoretical. This is happening right now. So today we're going to work through practical use case using the Trendware company sales data that we've already loaded into Colab. We'll answer real business questions using all three types of analytics, and you'll get to see firsthand how AI tools can accelerate your work dramatically. So, what is Trendware Co? What is the case study? Here's a little bit of company background. It's a fictional apparel company, but it represents a very real type of business. They sell apparel, footwear, and accessories across 4 geographic regions: North, South, East, and West. They have 2 sales channels, an online and inside the store. And they serve 3 customer segments: the consumer, small businesses, as well as corporations. They track marketing across 4 channels: email, social ads, affiliate marketing, and search ads. This is typical channel setups for companies such as Nike, Gap, and other modern retailers. So, what is their current business challenge? Trendware's executives have hired you and I to answer some critical questions they want to understand. The first one is descriptive. What happened last quarter? What regions, products drove revenue? And where are certain marketing channels effective? Did our profit margins vary by customer segment? That's what we do with descriptive analytics. Their next curiosity is their predictive analytics. What would happen next quarter? Can we forecast sales if we increase marketing? What products or categories are likely to grow? Excuse me. And then we have prescriptive. What should we do? Should we increase or shift our market spend? What product should we prioritize? And where should we allocate resources? These questions, what happened, what will happen, and what should we do, represent the evolution from basic reporting to true strategic business making. So let's dive into descriptive analytics. What happened? You and I must understand what's going on when we talk about descriptive analytics. Descriptive analytics is about understanding what happened in the past, not today, but yesterday. It's the fundamental of all analytics work. Think of it as your historical record. What were our sales? Where did they come from? What did customers buy? This is typically what most businesses are reporting today. Your quarterly sales report, that's a descriptive analytic. Your dashboard showing last month's website traffic, descriptive analytics. But here's the key. Good descriptive analytics doesn't just show you numbers, it tells a story about your business. The first is sales by region and product. What region or products drove revenue? If you look at your Colab notebook, you'll see we can visualize revenue by region and product using Python with just a few lines of code. From the visualization, you can immediately see some problems. The West region generated the highest revenue for shoes, over 11,000. The East region is strong in jackets and pants. But here's an important lesson. Revenue alone doesn't tell you if you're making money. So let's talk about revenue versus profitability. This is a critical distinction that many businesses miss. When we look at data by category, we see apparel has the highest total revenue at about 50,000. That's 57% of the total revenue. Footwear comes in second at 28,000, with accessories coming in just approximately 10,000. But when you calculate profit margins, the story changes dramatically. Accessories have the highest profit margin at 55%, despite having the lowest revenue. Apparel has a 45% margin. Footwear is only 40%. So what does this tell us about trendwear? Accessories are their most profitable product per dollar, even though they generate the least total revenue. This is exactly the kind of insights, that descriptive analytics help surface for organizations. Insights that might not be obvious from looking at raw sales numbers. Now let's look at our marketing channels effectiveness. This is a trickier question. Were certain marketing channels effective? This is where we need to be careful about how we define effective. Total marketing spend doesn't tell us much. Search ads had the highest spend at about 4,000, but does that mean that they were effective? We need a better measure. In marketing, effectiveness is typically measured by return on market investment, or ROMI. This is calculated as contribution divided by the marketing spend. When we calculate this, we see that email is an 11.4 for every dollar spent. We get approximately $11.44 in contribution. Affiliate was 3.1, social ads was 2.42, and search ads were 1.34. This completely changes the picture. Email marketing is by far the most effective channel, generating over 11 times the investment. Search ads, despite the biggest spend category, rarely returns its investment. This is the power of descriptive analytics. Choosing the right metric reveals the right story. Let's talk about a real-world example. Talk about the Bank of Central Credit. Let me show you how this plays out in the real world. Bank of Central Credit recently deployed Microsoft Fabric and Power BI to optimize their analytics. The results, they reduced errors in reports by 40%. It cut its analytics time significantly, accelerated their decision-making by over 50%, thus empowering their employees to save approximately 800 hours per month. Those 800 hours per month, that's the equivalent of 5 full-time employees. And it's all starting with better descriptive analytics, understanding what was actually happening in their business with accuracy and timely data. Let's talk about our customer segment analysis now. Let's look at the profit margin by customer segment. This is interesting because it helps us understand which customers are most valuable. The data shows that profit margins are relatively consistent across all three segments. Corporates just shy of 48%. The customers are 47%, and your small business is also at 47.5%. But profit margins alone don't tell the full story. We'd also want to look at an average order value and transaction volume. This leads us perfectly into our next selection. If descriptive analytics tells us what happened, predictive analytics tells us what's likely to happen next. Let's dive into that. Predictive analytics shows historical data or uses historical data to help forecast future outcomes. Instead of just knowing what happened, we're trying to answer what's going to happen. Can we forecast next quarter sales? Which of our products will grow? What happens if we change our marketing spend? And according to Forbes Business Insight, the global predictive analytics market is expected to reach approximately $95 billion by 2032. That's a growth of 21% annually. Companies using AI-driven predictive analytics reports a 20 to 30% improvement in decision accuracy. This is not marginal improvement. This is transformational. So what do? Let's build a predictive model. Let's take our data, for example. Can we forecast sales if we increase marketing spend? To answer this, we'll need to build a regression. Don't worry if you're not a statistics person, AI can help you with this. But it's important to understand the basic steps. The first step is we have to split the data set. We have to divide the data into training and testing. All in the 80-20 rule here, with 80% on training and then, 80% on training and 20% on testing. Next, we want to build and train the model. We'll use linear regression to find the relationship between marketing spend and revenue. Then we'll evaluate the model. We'll check the R-squared values, the mean absolute errors, the mean squared errors to see if the model is reliable. Then we'll use the model to help forecast. We'll plug in hypothetical marketing spend numbers to help predict future sales. Next is visualization. We have to be able to create charts that show the relationship with the prediction. Now it comes to the time for you and I to interpret and communicate. As humans, we'll translate the statistical output into a business language and for report it to our CMO or CTO or any other business who's asking for the data. So let's now understand how model performances work. When we run this model against our trend-aware data, we get some interesting and honestly disappointing results. Both AI models we tested, I ran this through 2 different ones, come with the same conclusion. The R-squared value on our training data was extremely low, 0.016. And critically, the R-squared of our testing data was negative 0.20. This strongly confirmed that the simple linear regression on marketing spend alone performs poorly on unseen data. The relationship between marketing spend and revenue is extremely weak, and other factors are likely more important. Let me explain what these metrics mean in plain English. R-squared, think of this as the score of 1 to 0, or 0% to 100%. That tells you how well your model explains changes in sales. Higher is better. A score near 100 means the model captures most of what drives sales. The lower R2 means that marketing spend also explains almost nothing about your revenue variation. The next term is your mean absolute error, commonly seen as MAE. This is the average error in the sales prediction. And MAE is 50. Our predictions are typically off by about $50. Our AME of 356 indicates large errors. Our predictions are not very accurate. The next one is your mean squared error, or known as MSE. Similar to MAE, it penalizes large errors more heavily. So lower is better. It's less intuitive than MAE, but it also shows how far off predictions are, emphasizing big mistakes. So what's our critical lesson here? Marketing spend alone is not a reliable predictor of your sales revenue from this data set. This is actually a fantastic finding because it tells us something important about our business. Sales are driven by multiple factors: product mix, customer segment, the region, the season we're in, our competitors' actions, also the economic conditions, and yes, our marketing spend. But marketing spend in isolation will never predict sales well. This means that Trendware needs a better sophisticated approach. A better predictive model would include multiple variables: the product category, your consumer, your region, the marketing channel that's being used, any historical trends, as well as economic indicators. This is called multiple regression. And it's exactly the kind of work that companies like Pecan AI specialize. They build platforms that enable businesses to predict future outcomes using historical data, even without extensive data science knowledge. So let's dive into another real-world example. Let me show you, or at least talk about, a financial company that leveraged AI Copilot to streamline its task. It improved content creation by enhanced analytics and personalized customer interactions. Employees at this company reported saving between 20 to 50% of their time. Yes, that's not a typo. About half their time was saved by using AI-powered analytics tools. Similar, a company named BOQ Group implemented 365 or Microsoft Copilot and enabled 70% of their employees to save 30 minutes to an hour daily. This adds up to enormous productivity gains when multiplied across your entire organization. Next, we have to communicate our results. One final critical point about predictive analytics is you need to communicate your findings to different audiences in different ways. Let's talk about 2 versions of how you might present data from our Trendware analysis. The first version would be your technical or statistical. I've built a regression model to test if marketing spend predicts sales. After splitting into train/test sets, I found that the R squared near zero, meaning spending alone doesn't explain ourselves. My takeaway was the business needs to include additional features like product, customer type, and region to build meaningful predictive models. That's version one. Most of us don't need this, and you'll probably rarely do this outside of your team. Version two, which is the business focus, is what I'd like to spend a little more time with you on, as these are reports you will run more often in your industry. So it goes in something like this. The initial modeling shows marketing spend has limited direct impact on our sales revenue. Effective sales forecasting requires more comprehensive approach, including factors like product, customer, and region. So I went through a long-winded technical, and then I showed you a business focus. So it's the same finding with completely different framing. For executives, use version two. For your analytics team, use version one. Knowing your audience is just as important as knowing your analytics. Now let's switch to prescriptive analytics. What should we do? We have to understand that predictive analytics is the holy grail of business analytics. It doesn't just tell you what's happened and what will happen. It will help recommend the best course of action, optimize results. This is where business derives the most value. Predictive analytics typically uses sophisticated optimization models, sensitivity analysis, decision trees, as well as simulations. These go beyond what we'll cover in this course, and its good news is that AI can assist you and I in starting to think prescriptively, even without being optimization experts. So here's our first example. Let's talk about marketing budget optimization. Remember the ROMI analysis from the descriptive section where we found that sales ad was the largest spend with the weakest return on investment of 1.34, while email had the strongest return on investment at 11.44. The prescriptive question is, what if we reallocated budget from search ads to email? What mixed maximization contribution? What is it? So let's work through this as a simplified example. Imagine Trendware has 10,000 in total for their marketing budget to allocate across all four channels. The objective is to maximize our profit contribution. How do we approach this? So let's talk about a strategy here. The first is we prioritize channels by the ROMI. Channels with higher ROI we convert the marketing spend into contribution more effectively. Second, we'll consider contribution potential. The higher the ROMI, doesn't roll off my tongue very well. Channels, the higher the average contribution per transactions are especially valuable. And then thirdly, we'll allocate proportionally. We can allocate our budget based on the rankings, weight by our current levels. So based on the ROMI data, a simplified hypothetical allocation might look like this. So for email, we'll spend 5,000 because that was our highest at 11.44. For the affiliate, we'll spend about 2,000, which was, if you look back, was 3.11 on our return. Social ads, let's go down to 2,000. Well, we were getting about 2.42. And our search ads, let's use the remaining 1,000. So now let's use that historical ROMI and estimate total contribution. So you take your email at 5,000, you times it by the 11.44. It's going to give you approximately 55,200. Take your affiliate, easier math here, 2,000 times 3.11, just over $6,000. Your social ads, again, were 2,000, times that by the 2.42. You're getting just shy of 5,000 at 4,840. And then we take our $1,000 for search ads, times it by the 1.34. You get $1,340. So our estimated total contribution is just shy of $70,000. Now, this is simplified analysis, and it has significant limitations. Most importantly, it doesn't account for diminishing return. In reality, if you suddenly spend 5x more on email marketing, your probability of your ROMI staying at 11.44 is not likely the case because you've now saturated your email list. You've experienced fatigue and you've hit capacity constraints. A true prescriptive model would incorporate diminishing return curves for each channel. It would look at historical data on how ROMI changes, the spend levels. It will take into account for seasonal variations and promotional calendars. It will look at what your competitor activities are and what is the current market conditions. And you'll need to look at a healthy marketing mix across all of your channels. And most organization data analysts or specialized teams build these comprehensive models. But the conceptual framework prioritizing based on ROI, return on investment, that you're considering your restraints to help you optimize your allocation is something every business professional should understand. So let's look at example 2, which is your product mix decision. Could trendwear prioritize apparel or accessories? From our descriptive analysis, we know that apparel was 57% of our revenue, but 45% profit margin. Where accessories is 11% of our revenue, but it has a 55% profit margin. The prescriptive recommendation will depend on your business goal. Is the goal to maximize revenue? We'll push apparel. It's the volume driver. If the goal is to maximize profit margin, we're going to push accessories. Each dollar of sales generates more profit. This is a trade-off decision, which is the core of prescriptive analytics. You can't optimize for everything simultaneously. You must choose what to optimize for. And different objectives lead to different business recommendations. A more sophisticated analysis you would consider your sales volume potential for each category. You look at your total profit generated, revenue, times your profit margin. You would look at resource constraints. What is my inventory? What is my marketing budget? What is the shelf space that I have? And then lastly, you'll look at your market demand and trend grids. So members of the First Federal Credit Union can give us some analysis here. They adopted Microsoft Fabric, which is a comprehensive data analytics platform with AI-powered capabilities. They used it to derive value insights for more informed decision-making and to refine marketing campaigns, thus offering members services that they needed the most. This is prescriptive analytics in action. The system does not just tell them what happened, descriptive, or what happened, predictive. It recommends which members to target with which products, thus maximizing both member satisfaction and your business results. So let's now take this next section and go through the analytics progression with industry trends. So let's take an image of a pyramid. Think of the value here. Think of each side of it as part of our description. So our foundation, the bottom, is descriptive. What happened? As this is essential. You can't build anything without understanding your current state. Most companies are here. Then we can look at the first side or the middle. We're moving up. This is your predictive. What will happen? The value, this adds value by focusing on forecasting and how it enables your business versus reactive. So being more proactive versus reactive in your management. Growing numbers of companies are now moving into this. And at the top, the peak. What should we do? This is where competitive advantage lives. Optimizing decisions in real time. Leading companies are here. Think of your Fortune 5, Fortune 50 companies. The progression isn't just about sophistication. It's about business value. PwC's 2025 Responsible AI Survey found that 60% of executives said proper AI implementation will boost return on investment and efficiency, while 55% reported improved customer experience and innovation. Here's the catch. Nearly half said turning AI principles into operational processes has been a challenge. Let's look at a few industry statistics. In 2024, 78% of organizations reported using AI for at least one business function. That was up from 55% in 23. That's massive acceleration in 1 year. Private investment in generative AI hit just shy of $40 billion in 2025. Companies aren't just experimenting, they're making serious financial commitments. So by 2028, it's projected that 33% of our enterprise software applications will incorporate agentic AI. AI can set goals, plan tasks, execute actions, and adapt based on feedback without continuous human oversight. That's up from less than 1% last year. So according to IDC, 66% of CEOs report measurable business benefits from generative AI initiatives, particularly in enhancing operational efficiency and consumer satisfaction. Every new dollar spent on AI solutions is expected to generate an additional $4.90 in global economy. That's nearly a 5x multiple. Now for you, what is the skills gaps and opportunities? While AI adoption is accelerating, many companies are struggling to use it and implement it effectively. They have the technology, but not the business acumen to use it strategically. Companies need people who can first understand business problems and translate them into analytical questions. Second, work with data using Python and AI assistants. They need to be able to interpret the statistic outputs and translate them into business language, thus communicating findings effectively to different audiences that we discussed earlier between version 1 and version 2. And they need us to think critically about the data, quality, any biases, and ethical implications. You don't need a PhD in statistics. You need to understand business. Think about analytics carefully, and then know how to leverage AI tools effectively. That combination is incredibly valuable in today's market. So as we talked in previous lections, let me remind you of the tool progression we discussed, because it connects directly to our analytics progression. We started with spreadsheets. Then we moved to database business intelligence tools. Then we moved to Python, and then we moved to AI. Again, spreadsheets are great for small data, quick analysis, and basic descriptive analytics. The databases and BI tools, while they handle large data sets, they offer multiple user access and advanced descriptive analytics because they give you dashboards and visualizations. Python is scalable. It helps with the automation of repetitive work. It integrates with our AI libraries, whilst enabling predictive and prescriptive analytics. And then moving into AIs or any of the other GPTs, they leverage structured and unstructured data at massive scale. They help with advanced analytics, and they can enable natural language queries where we ask business questions to technical data. Each step in this progression unlocks more sophisticated analytical capabilities. So let's turn to our AI assistants. Now it's time for you and I to practice. I want you to use the AI assistant to help you analyze the trend-aware data. You can find this in week 5 dataset. The key is to compare the different AI tools to see which ones gives you the best results. Try at least 3 different tools: ChatGPT, Copilot, Claude, Gemini, which is where Colab is built off of. For each analytical question, ask the tool to generate some Python code. Test the code in Colab. Does it actually work? Does it produce accurate results? And then document which tool gave the best response for each question and validate your results. Walk through these questions with your AI assistants. The first question: what region had the highest average contribution? What type of analysis is this? It's scripted because you're helping understand what happened. Second question: which marketing channel produced the highest revenue? Which type of analytics is this? Descriptive again. But remember, the highest revenue doesn't necessarily mean your best return on investment. And question 3, plot the revenue trends by month. What type of analytics is this? Again, it's descriptive, but you're also using visualization because now you're looking for patterns over time. For each question, your prompt to AI might be something like write Python code using pandas to calculate the average contribution by region from the sales dataset. Or you can use something similar to this: create a line chart showing revenue trends by month using Matplotlib. Now you need to think critically about your outputs. AI tools are helpers, not replacements to your actual thinking capabilities. Know what question to ask. AI can't tell you what business problem to solve. Evaluate whether the code actually does what you need. Validate the results. Do the numbers make sense? 2 plus 2 should equal 4, not 5, not 3, not 1. And interpret the findings in the business context in which you're trying to solve. And then lastly, make sure you have effective communication by giving insights that mean something to our executives. So I ran predictive models through 2 different AI tools, and they both came back with the same conclusion about marketing spend not being a good predictor, as we've discussed in the lecture. The convergence gave me confidence in my results. When you're doing important analysis, it's worth checking your work with multiple tools. So now as we wrap up, let's think about what you should remember from this lecture. First are descriptive analytics. What happened? The foundation, where you should start. Understanding your business through data. What is your revenue? What is your return by channel? What profit margins are you getting? This is where everyone must start. Predictive analytics. What will happen? Using historical data to forecast future trends. Think about linear regressions, time series analysis, machine learning models. This is where competitive advantage begins. And then finally, the prescriptive analytics. What should we do? This is where optimization and simulations and decision support come into play. You're recommending actions that achieve your actual business goals. This is where industry leaders want to operate. So take away these 5 critical takeaways. First, choose the right metric. Revenue alone doesn't tell you profitability. Marketing spend alone doesn't tell you the effectiveness. Always ask, is this the right metric for what I'm trying to understand? 2, validate your models. A low R-squared isn't failure. It's valuable information telling you that your model is missing important narratives. Listen to what your data is telling you. Third, know your audience. Technical audiences need R-squared values and error metric. Business audiences need clear recommendations backed by data, same analysis, different presentations. And then fourthly, leverage AI, but think critically. AI tools can write code faster than you can, but they can't tell you what business problem to solve or whether the results make sense. Your judgment is irreplaceable. Business value comes from action. Descriptive analytics inform. Predictive analytics warn. Prescriptive analytics guides action. The real value is making better decisions, not just having better data. This is your career advantage. These skills you're learning right now, working with data in Python, leveraging AI assistance, thinking analytically, communicating insights, these are incredibly valuable in today's job market. Companies are desperate for people who can bridge the gap between data and business decisions. Remember, according to recent studies, data-driven companies are 23 times more likely to acquire customers and 19 times more likely to be profitable. McKinsey found that integrating customer data analytics into business funnels improves growth, thus enlarging profits by at least 50%. Other reports that transitioning from basic to advanced business analytics can boost your profitability by 80%. These are not marginal improvements. These are game-changing competitive advantages. And the companies achieving these results need people who understand, people like you. So next steps, try out some of these analysis from the Trendware data. Compare your results. Practice explaining your findings. So let me know if you have any questions. Next, we'll dive into machine learning basics, where we'll explore the predictive models we use today actually work under the hood. We'll look at different types of machine learning, when to use each, and how businesses are deploying them at scale. So as always, stay safe and stay secure, everyone. Reach out with any questions. I'm here to help. And I hope you enjoyed today's engagement. So get logged into Colab, start experimenting. And remember, the best way to learn analytics is by doing analytics.